I know I'm not the only one when I say this, but as a big fan of horror video games, I actually don't like horror movies. Really at all. With only this minute few making the list. And I think I have Silent Hill 2 to blame for that. No other piece of spooky media has even came close to giving me the same terrifying feelings as SH2 has, and this game came all the way out in 2001. The only thing that came close was those heavy-weighting footsteps of a certain fedora-wearing tyrant stomping about in an empty Raccoon City police station.
I thought it was the fucking guy with the hat on. Oh my god, that would have been the that would have been one of the scariest things ever in a video game.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Surprisingly, I've never scared that easily. Of course, I wasn't a total stranger to the survival horror genre by this time, as I gained my way through the first couple of Resident Evils and a chunk of the first Silent Hill. I thought I've seen everything the horror genre had to throw at me, so I confidently picked up my copy of SH2 and fired up the old Sony. I ain't afraid no ghost. And, well, so, like I said, I don't really scare easily. I'm not immune to being spooked, but it takes a lot more effort. So, the first time I legit freaked out was back in Resident Evil 3. It only took a bloodthirsty rocket launcher wielding tentacle slinging monster charging full speed at me screaming "Stars" to actually terrify me. You know what it took to scare me in SH2? An apartment complex. Just a dirty old apartment. And that's before Pyramid Head even showed up. Just the atmosphere alone was enough to have me flip my lights back on and call it quits for the night. The original 4 Silent Hill games are what I believe to be the pinnacle of the horror genre. Their use of liminal spaces makes the environment seem familiar, but distant enough to keep you teetering on the edge of reality. Akira Yamaoka's abstract soundtracks further that feeling even more, somehow mixing a shrewd, chilling soundscape that's both terrifying and serene at the same time, keeping you calm but uneasy. Then his use of everyday sounds, blending them into a melodic beat, it spirals you into insanity. There is a contingent mystery to everything Silent Hill has to offer. The premise isn't wild enough to completely take you out of your element, they keep you just on the fringe of reality, which I consider to be the best uses of horror. And can we talk about those monster designs though? Everything has an uncanny humanoid form to it. They almost have a believability to them. Even the completely obtuse ones share some human characteristics like wearing a miniskirt and high-heeled boots, resembling the main character. Ooh. And this thing, my god! What is it? Which obviously brings me to the main reason we're here today. The Mac Daddy of monsters, just one of the most iconic creepy boys. Period. When you hear Silent Hill, you immediately think of this guy. Pyramid Head. I even love how he's first introduced in the game. He just stands there not moving an inch.
Just gonna pretend that guy didn't see me, and I'm just gonna go about my business.
You don't know what to make of it. I just love how it doesn't even point you towards knowing that this is actually the main bad boy of the game. Anyways. Ooh. Hello everyone, Ryan here with Fig Ultra Reviews, and why is it so dark in here? That's better. You know it's spooky season, and I gotta do my boy here proper. I just need an excuse to talk about my favorite video game of all time and my favorite monster of all time. Because I actually seen that they are doing a re-release of both him and the Bubblehead Nurse. And this is like the one thing Konami's actually done right in the past 20 years. So I just wanted to do a proper review of everyone's favorite Red Pyramid thing, or Red Pyramid Head. That's, I guess, the official Japanese and English names, but everyone knows and loves him as Pyramid Head. So, let's get into it! Ooh, like a strobe light. So this figure was originally released in 2015 by Freeing. As for the re-release, it seems like they're keeping it pretty much the same, from what I can tell, and Freeing is manufacturing them as well again. I know he's pretty gross looking, but we gotta get a closer look at him and go over the details. In my restless dreams, I see that triangle, boy. Pyramid Head. So why do they call him Pyramid Head anyways? I don't get it. The old foggy CRT never did my boy justice. Pixelization was rough back in the day, but seeing him up close and in higher resolution, I have a whole new respect for his design because my god. Anyways, that big pointy thing on his head. Rusted from top to bottom, his big heavy metal helmet ominously rests upon his shoulders. It's weathered and corroded as cracks and chips can be found throughout every inch of that frame. Hope you had your tetanus shot. Bulging from underneath, a protrusion of inhuman flesh hangs out along his back. You had to add the bolt, didn't you? Close your eyes if you're squeamish, kids, because if we pop this bad boy off, we get to see what's on the inside. You know what? We'll just pretend we didn't see that. Actually, Pyramid Head's original designer, Masahiro Ito, noted some of the figures of Big P, like this one and Gecko statues, have had the inside of his helmet lined with this nasty stuff. But Masahiro only had the fleshy part on his back and never on the inside of his helmet, like shown here. I guess he always had intended for it to be a mystery, what was truly inside there. And I would have rather kept it that way, to be honest. Do you even lift, bro? PH looking straight jacked with those muscles and veins running down his forearms. They're dirty and almost flame-tinged. How about those goofy webbed hands of his, wrapped in filthy, bloody white gloves? Next is his grayish, tattered executioner's wardrobe, riddled with holes and splatters of dried blood. There's a few fasteners and bolts on the front and back, then slits on the sides. His thick black boots, stained with splatters of blood streaks as well. Brace yourself! Pyramid Head accessories incoming! So let's see what kinds of goodies our good boy comes with. We'll get the boring stuff out of the way first. Those hands. First, PH throws his fists in the air like he just doesn't care. Next, left and right webby hands, then another pair of less webby hands. You can mix and match both types when you're feeling extra spicy. Next, a pair for swinging around that great knife of his. They are kind of shaped more squarish for fitting the handle in. Lastly, dual hands for wielding a spear with. These ones are your standard grippers. Feel free to put whatever accessory you like in them. As I previously mentioned, his weapons of choice.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
I know he ain't using that to chop onions with. Then that eerie primal spear. Oh, the tip is removable. What could that be for? Oh, just casually lodging into his esophagus like such. You're gonna want to yank out that regular old neck of his and replace it with the one with the hole in it. If you see where I'm going with this, then you know that the end of the spear snugs into the hole so you can recreate the final battle from the game. Also, while I was using the whole neck, when I was going to swap it back out for the normal one, I realized there's really no point as you can't even see the hole from underneath his helmet. So, unless you're super OCD, I guess just leave the holy one in if you plan on doing the big stab. So that's about it for the accessories. He's a simple man. Less is more. So that means I can go over my likes and dislikes now.
You're not friends with that red pyramid thing, are you?
Red pyramid thing.
Yeah, that's right. I'm friends with that red pyramid thing. So what if I am? Let's peep those likes. Number 1. Think Jemima Konami did right and made this Figma the real OG Pyramid Head. You know, the canon one. The best and only version that truly matters. I mean, I just love how weird he is. Why does he move around like that? I mean, the Big Hoss version is cool and all, but come on, he has no personality. I mean, he's not that scary. Oh, Number 2. His outfit. So his upper and lower half are made of rubber, while his waist is just solid plastic. For posability reasons, I'm sure, and I'm usually not a fan of just straight rubber material on figures like this. But it works so good for this guy. The thicker material adds more texture and depth to his smock. Each ripple and tear has more substance, and adds to just how dirty and grimy he really is. Sometimes on the plastic clothing configuration, when bending the arms and legs where the joints end and connect together, that little gap in between can kind of look off. But with at least the legs and waist being covered up, it's less of a hindrance. And since we're on the topic of joints, props on the squad for actually blending in the color of the joints. Since he's got a dark discolored skin tone, it's nice that they match his arms. Well, I guess the most important thing on this figure, the pyramid. Man, is this thing gnarly. And I don't use that term very often, so it gets the highest of praises from me. Of course, it's no 1/6 scale statue, but for a mass-produced quality, this helmet is up to snuff for what it is. The sculpting and overall shape is on point, from the sharp angles and the way the edges are frayed out. They got the big dent on the front and the corroded bubbly crack on the side. It even looks like it has weight to it. The way it's painted adds even more character to it. I'm almost afraid to touch it in fear of getting like tetanus from all that rust. Gotta love that the weapons get the same share of attention to detail too. Oh, finally! Yes, my prayers have been answered. Guess what, everyone? The stand. It actually goes in all the way. Look, it works! You don't know how filled with joy I am. Finally, a stand that fits. For a gripe I have, even though I praised his fashion sense and adaptability of his rubber clothing earlier, there's no way to take it off. Which is good since you won't have to worry about it going askew, but it leaves you little room for keeping tabs on his joints, especially where his legs attach to his torso. There are openings along the sides, but if a leg were to pop off of him, it can be a mess trying to weasel it back on without being able to even see up in there. While it does mask the joints, it could be a potential hazard, but I don't think it's anything really serious, which leads me into a good transition into dislikes. The base of his smock thingy is connected at the bottom, which is video game correct, of course, but it does dampen the articulation of the legs a little bit. I've twisted a leg and had the joint spin around with it, so it took me a minute to figure out how to get it back in its true position. Oh, right, the peg joint for attaching his head to the neck can get sucked up into the helmet if you miss the shot. I had to get pliers to grab it and pull it back out. I couldn't get my fingers in there. Next, the spear neck pose. It didn't want to stay in the neck that well. It was tricky to get it to face the ground like how it's supposed to. It would just stick straight out, and when I'd go to recreate the pose from the game, it would just pop right out of his neck. No questions asked. Also not a big fan of his elbows. The way they are shaped with like the joints can make for a weird gap. It seems they have to be twisted in the perfect position to line upright. When doing like more abstract arm movements, the elbows can like be misaligned and look odd. Also, the back plate muscle thing kinda weirds me out for some reason. Don't ask. Oh right, time to rate this pointy-headed fellow. If you've seen my reviews, then you know I like to rate my figures in 3 different categories, and I always start with photographability first. But not this time. You know what? Never mind, photographability. As you may know, Pyramid Head is the big looming ominous figure that stalks you all throughout the game. He never speaks and you never exactly know why he's after you in the first place. But every encounter, big or small, his presence alone is enough to scare your pants off. And that transition to figure form translated perfectly. PH has odd, discomforting body language, from his walk, the way he drags his knife to whatever that is. And the way his figure articulates captures that essence spot on. Give him a weird posture, make him swing his knife or throw his spear. Every pose I put him in, it seemed like something Pyramid Head would do. Recreate scenes from the game to the best of your abilities, or just get wacky with it. Why does he pose up with anime girls so well? I've also seen people do this, so he's got that going for him. The next category is quality. So how did the freeing team do? Well, I think just because his peg stand actually worked for me this time, I might be a little biased now. I've been having some bad luck as of recent with my Figma stands. You know. Anyways, but I gotta say this is a primo Figma. The joints feel strong and secure. He holds onto his weapons like a champ. All the accessories feel first class, even counting the detail that went into them. It's cool even the gloves and boots have blood stains on them. The paint quality is great too. Both his knife and spear look worn and damaged. Props on his arm molds too. They're just like straight grotesque. The veins and tears really kick them up a notch too, especially with the detailed shadows and burns. Alright, the last category is triangleness. Yep, he's a pointy boy.
Triangle man, triangle man hates person man. They have a fight, triangle wins, triangle man.
He gets a 4.1 big swings out of 5.
can you sit there and eat pizza?
What? I'm hungry.
Final thoughts. There's not much else to add to this one. It's a simple figure, not many accessories to it, but his bulkiness makes up for it. This is the kind of figure you just get for the looks and your love of the character. Oh, also I want to shout out Freeing for the big brain move here. That plastic blister design, boy, they actually made a proper spot for the accessory bag to go in. Sometimes Max Factory just slaps the bag in the box and lets you deal with it, and eventually you lose it. Anyways, I'm super stoked to have this guy in my collection. I love the original Silent Hills, and Big Number 2 has got to be my all-time favorite video game without a doubt. So you know I gotta rep my boy. So with all that being said... So, thanks for watching. Much love. You're the best. Make a comment. You like Pyramid Head? You like Silent Hill? Is Silent Hill the spookiest game you've ever played? You like spooky games? Am I spooky? Ha 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 ha. Bye bye.